We'd like to welcome you to this session of the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. Today is Friday, July 29th. I'm Commissioner Galambos Malloy. I will be serving as your chair for this meeting. To my left, I have incoming chair, Commissioner Baraba, who will be assisting with the proceedings today. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Sargis to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aguirre.
Here.
Anchetta.
Here.
Baraba.
Here.
Blanco. Here. Dye.
Here.
DiGiulio. Vilkins Weber.
Here.
Forbes.
Here.
Galambos Malloy.
Here.
Antai.
Here.
Parvenu.
Here.
Raya. Here. Ward.
Here.
Yao.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. We do expect Commissioner DiGiulio to be joining us shortly, likely during the public comment period. I'd like to just run through the agenda for today. As those who have been following this process closely are well aware, today marks a very pivotal milestone in our process here to create State Assembly, Senate, Board of Equalization, and Congressional maps on behalf of the citizens of California. Today, our agenda will allow for public comment at the beginning of our meeting. As soon as I run through the agenda, we'll be offering a 2-minute time period to any interested members of the public. At that time, we will transition towards our final discussion and consideration of a vote on each of the 4 sets of statewide maps. In the case of the Assembly, the Senate, and the Board of Equalization maps, when we open any action items to the floor, commissioners will each have 1 minute to weigh in. We will also open it up to the public to weigh in. When we transition to the Congressional maps, which we will take on as the final set of maps, each commissioner will have 2 minutes to respond. And we will also, of course, open up all of these motions to the public. Pending how we have progressed in terms of time, we may allow for public comment as well at the close of the meeting. It would likely be 1 minute time period, and we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. We do have a 1 p.m. press conference, so I would suggest if there are members of the public who would like to make sure they have an opportunity to have their voices heard this morning, please take advantage of the first round of public comment, which is guaranteed with our agenda time. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments regarding today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to invite any interested members of the public to join us for public comment.
Good morning. Erica Teasley-Linick with the African American Redistricting Collaborative. Yesterday we presented a small 2-district swap to bring the LAX Airport COI together to correct what seemed to have been some type of omission. A neighborhood covered by the Los Angeles Airport Mitigation Noise Proofing Program was drawn out of the district that it was in previously in other commission maps. We gave you precise information about the blocks involved, where to get the population to compensate for the move, a move that would take 5 to 10 minutes max. We gave you this information while you were considering your final draft maps, with the emphasis on draft. You've expressed the importance of keeping those neighborhoods that are directly affected by the airport together, and we applaud you for that. You've also spent some time Sunday talking about that during your narrative period. But when provided the opportunity to correct this related omission, we are met with, it's too late. How can it be too late when we've presented minimal changes to a draft map that was only made available to the public yesterday morning? After Sunday's controversial debate, nearly all the time you spent on the South LA districts, you spent time making improvements to the West Side and Beach Cities districts. You added wetlands. That was a 10-minute discussion, and the VA complex. One commissioner tried to go back to this area near the Empowerment Congress, but because he didn't seem to have the population implications correct, the chair moved the discussion along and said, you don't want to pursue this anymore, right? You made changes to these draft maps on Saturday and Sunday, yet they could not be examined by the public until yesterday morning. We provided you with the most timely comments possible before your vote. It has been difficult, to say the least, to respond to the moving targets that your maps have been. Street-level detail has been difficult to access until more recently. You yourselves have referenced other websites for the public to get more information about your work. We've gone to the Rose Institute website, Advancement Projects, Redraw LA, or Redraw California. There is a public comment period for a reason, to make your maps better. Don't ask the public comment to comment on draft maps if you have no intention of using the information for your maps.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Malka Coppell from California Forward. And as you know, we have been following this process since Prop 11. We wanted to take the opportunity today, understanding that it's not over yet, but to thank you for your hard work, your long hours, and your dedication to this process and to the work. We also appreciate the level of transparency and the attempt to provide access to the public on your behalf and on your staff's behalf, and a level of transparency and access that would not have been imagined 10 years ago. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Helen Hutchison, and I'm here today representing the League of Women Voters of California. Today's the day. The reform we've worked to achieve for decades finally becomes reality. And on behalf of the thousands of League members throughout California, I'd like to thank the Commission and California for making this happen. In an open and transparent process, this Commission was chosen and set about its work. The work has been hard, the pressure unrelenting, and you have not always agreed. But you have worked together in a spirit of mutual respect and civil discourse to fulfill the tasks that were given you. This is an example that our democracy should follow more often. The people of California have engaged with you, not always calmly and certainly with spirit. Californians have paid very close attention to the processes of their government and worked hard over the last many months to improve them. This is another example our democracy should follow more often. As you vote, we hope that everyone remembers that there is no perfect map. And in a democracy, everybody can't have everything they want each time. But for the first time ever, Californians will know exactly who drew the maps, how they were drawn, and for what reasons. And they know their voices were heard and made a difference. So to the Commission, our heartfelt thanks and well done. And to California, continue the engagement you have embraced here in the larger process of making our democracy stronger.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Saliveri, California Conservative Action Group. The party of Lincoln and Reagan is in trouble in California. The money people, in their genius, funded a citizens commission whose maps move us from minority to irrelevance. The brass responds, shoots itself in the foot, stabs itself in the back, and makes pronouncements from on high that no one listens to, as the base chases down the latest paranoid fantasy or gossips on the coffee and speaker circuit. A perfect storm. The maps this brilliant commission have created may give Democrats a blank check in the State House next year and 5 seats towards 25 to retake the Congress. Consider California as a one-party state and Congress back in Democratic hands for a second term of the incumbent administration. That may be this commission's legacy, unless 3 citizen Republicans say no. A former Senator, Haynes, has said, Democrats on a citizens commission prove their partisanship by rolling Republicans, and Republicans prove their impartiality by rolling Republicans. But Charles Bell says that the proposition's created a safety valve. You can deadlock and send politically, legally, and morally bad maps to the Supreme Court. These maps are, in many instances, racial gerrymanders. There has been covert political involvement, especially in Los Angeles. The Commission did willfully violate Bagley-Keene and is shot through with conflicts of interest. If you vote yes, the lazy press will write the puff pieces from your PR handouts like they did last time, but steadily, inexorably, the truth will out. Consider your legacy, but mostly consider our broken golden state and how we're going to fix it.
Thank you. Do we have any additional members of the public who would like to provide comment? If there are any other members of the public, please go ahead and make your way over to this side of the room.
My name is Raquel Vargas, and I'm here to make a comment for the California Conservative Action Group. From the beginning of this process, we've had over 300 individuals come before the Commission, as well as write letters on behalf of our Tri-Valley community of interest in the Congressional District. Our line drawers were strictly grassroots volunteers, and they provided you time and time again with new maps, map after map, that would give you the population and numbers and other requirements to assist you with drawing your congressional districts. I ask that you would consider a no vote because the community of interest that we have asked you to acknowledge has not been, and we're very disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional members of the public who would like to comment? Seeing none, I would like to invite our technical consultants, Q2, to present to us our draft final state assembly maps.
This is the draft final state assembly map.
Good morning, Commissioners. Would you like to move through this map, one district at a time, or how would you like to do this?
We have spent many hours over the recent days and weeks reviewing in detail these districts. We spent the majority of yesterday afternoon's session doing this in detail for all of the sets of maps. At this point, our goal is to consider the maps in their entirety at the statewide level, and as such, I would entertain any comments or action.
I would propose a motion that would lead into this discussion. Resolved, the draft statewide assembly map presented to the California Citizens Redistricting Commission on July 29, 2011 is approved by the Commission for public comment and posting at www.wedrawthelineca.gov for at least 14 days. Resolved further, following posting and public comment of this proposed map, the Commission will vote on a final statewide assembly map on August 15, 2011.
Second.
Thank you. So, Commissioners, the floor is open. Ms. Sargis will be timing 1 minute for any commissioners that would like to discuss this statewide assembly map. Seeing none, I will open the floor to the public. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on the draft final assembly map? In that case, Ms. Sargis, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Aguirre.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Anchetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco.
Yes.
Commissioner Dye.
Yes.
Commissioner Raya.
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba.
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins-Weber.
Yes.
Commissioner Ontai.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
No.
Commissioner Yao.
Yes.
You didn't call my name.
I didn't call.
Forgot the others.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner DiGiulio.
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes.
Yes.
Commissioner Glambus-Malloy.
Yes.
Commissioner Parvenu.
Yes.
From the Democratic Party, 5 yeses, no nos. From the declined estates, 4 yeses, no nos. From the Republicans, 4 yeses, 1 no. The requisite special majority has been reached on this motion. The motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners. 1 down, 3 to go. We'll pass the mic back to Q2. If you could please present us with our draft final statewide Senate maps.
Okay, just 1 moment.
Again, Commissioners, this is the map that we reviewed yesterday afternoon in some detail. It is our draft final Senate map for the state of California.
Chair, I would put forward this resolution for approval by the Commission. Resolved, the draft statewide Senate map presented to the California Citizens Redistricting Commission on July 29, 2011, is approved by the Commission for public comment and posting at www.wedrawthelineca.gov for at least 14 days. Resolved further, following posting and public comment of this proposed map, the Commission will vote on a final statewide Senate map on August 15, 2011.
Second. The floor is open. Any commissioners who would like to weigh in?
Who seconded this? Oh, okay.
Any commissioners who would like to weigh in? Ms. Sargis will keep time. Commissioner Blanco.
I know that we've discussed maybe making some comments on the maps. I'm going to vote yes on the Senate maps, but I want to note something that for the public that I know is of concern to many and to myself, which is we have a Senate district in Northern California that we received a lot of public comment that involves the areas of Martinez, Crockett, traditional areas of Contra Costa that are usually grouped together along a portion of the Highway 4 and that have a strong identity. We understand that this is not ideal, but I want to say that there are a lot of other issues that around the state on Senate maps where we have less than ideal districts, and that we weren't always able to balance all the things we needed to balance: population, communities of interest, Section 5, Section 2, geographic concerns, divisions like bridges that people didn't want us to, cross. So I wanted to point that out because I know that this is an area where we've received a lot of public comment, and I wanted to, for the record, state that this is the result of a lot of balancing of interests. And at the end of the day, I think that we group some cities together in this district that have a lot of commonalities, even if the entire district is a new district to those cities in some ways. There are cities within there that I think will be able to work together regardless of who their partners are in the larger Senate district. They are going to be able to have, as between them, shared interests, which bottom line is this is about fair and effective representation, and they will have enough of a
time is up.
Just enough of a weight with other similar cities that they won't be isolated and they will be able to receive fair and effective representation.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Commissioner Yao?
One of the requirements that were imposed on us on the Senate map was the concept of nesting of assembly maps. Initially, we were hoping to be able to nest a number of assembly districts into Senate districts. As we progress along that path, what we found is that the state of California and each district indeed is very different, very diverse. And by simply combining a couple adjacent districts into a Senate districts, we did not accomplish the main goal that we had, is to provide a district of real common interest. So what we end up having to do was to tailor these nesting in some cases to try to make it work. I think it's only in a handful of districts that we indeed were able to nest. So as much as we try to honor that particular requirement that was imposed on us by Prop 11, I think we were able to draw much better Senate districts by not doing as much nesting as physically possible. So I just want to explain that, explain the fact that we didn't ignore that requirement. We simply think that better maps could be drawn by using other methods.
Thank you. Other commissioners who would like to weigh in on the draft final Senate map? Commissioner Dye.
Just to follow up on Commissioner Yao's comment, I also agree with that. In many cases, we have to remember the Senate districts are the largest. It's 931,000 people, almost 1 million people. I'm pretty sure we have the largest legislative districts probably in the country. And as Commissioner Blanco said, it was often a challenge to look at what are the common interests in these very, very large districts. But one of the things that we were able to accomplish by looking at that shared interest, which really is criteria number 4 in our list of constitutionally ordered criteria, was to try to make sure that we did look at that above nesting, which is the lowest criteria.
Thank you. Do we have any other commissioners who would like to speak on the draft final Senate map? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open this up to members of the public who would like to comment on the Senate map. Seeing none, Ms. Sargis, could you please call roll?
Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes.
Commissioner Anchetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco?
Yes.
Commissioner Dye?
Yes.
Commissioner Raya?
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba?
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins-Weber?
Yes.
Commissioner Ontai?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
No.
Commissioner Yao?
Yes.
Commissioner DeGiulio?
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes?
Yes.
Commissioner Galambos-Malloy?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvenu?
Yes.
From the Democratic Party, we have 5 yeses, no nos. From the Republicans, 4 yeses, 1 no. From the declined estates, 4 yeses. The requisite special majority has been reached on this motion. The motion passes.
2 down, 2 to go. We will turn it back to Q2. If we could next see our draft final Board of Equalization maps for the state of California.
Loading them up. Just 1 second.
Again, this is the same map that we spent some time reviewing and commenting on yesterday afternoon.
Chair, I would move that we resolve. After we turn on the microphone, I would resolve that the draft statewide Board of Equalization map presented to the California Citizens Redistricting Commission on July 29, 2011 is approved by the Commission for public comment and posting at www.wedrawthelines.ca.gov for at least 14 days. Resolved further, following the posting and public comment of this proposed map, the Commission will vote on a final statewide Board of Equalization map on August 15, 2011.
And I will second it.
Commissioner Ontai with the second. With that, I'd like to open the floor up to commissioners who would like to weigh in on the Board of Equalization draft final maps. Seeing none, I'd like to invite any members of the public who would like to comment on the draft final Board of Equalization maps. Ms. Sargis, could you please call roll?
Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes.
Commissioner Anchetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco?
Yes.
Commissioner Dye?
Yes.
Commissioner Raya?
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba?
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins-Weber?
Yes.
Commissioner Ontai?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
No.
Commissioner Yao?
Yes.
Commissioner DeGiulio?
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes?
Yes.
Commissioner Galambos-Malloy?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvenu.
Yes.
From the Democrats, 5 yeses, no nos. From the Republicans, 4 yeses, 1 no. From the declined to states, 4 yeses, no nos. The requisite special majority has been reached on this motion. The motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Sargis. With that, we would like to take a look at our draft final congressional maps. I did want to say before we move into any action on the congressional maps that we have certainly, as a commission, across the board with all of the maps, taken very seriously the charge with which we were seated here on behalf of the residents of California. The congressional maps have presented their own unique challenges and opportunities. Clearly, the level of gravity of selecting districts that will result in federal representation for the communities that they contain, combined with the reality of one-person population deviation, has required us to spend many long days and nights, both together in session and individually, poring over the public comment and the data that we had to work with as we deliberated and debated on what these districts should look like. And because of that, I do want to make sure we have more time for commissioners to be able to weigh in on the issues at hand. So we would like to allow each commissioner about 2 minutes to weigh in on this. And first, I will turn the mic over to Commissioner Baraba.
Yes. Resolved, the draft statewide congressional map presented to the California Citizens Redistricting Commission on July 29, 2011 is approved by the Commission for public comment and posting at www.wedrawthelines.ca.gov for at least 14 days. Resolved further, following the posting and public comment of this proposed map, the Commission will vote on a final statewide congressional map on August 15, 2011.
Second.
Aguirre with a second. Okay, with that, the floor is open. Ms. Sargis will be helping us keep time. Would any commissioners like to comment on the draft final congressional maps? Commissioner Filkins-Weber, then DeGiulio.
It's well known that I did not sit back in silence throughout this process. I participated to the fullest extent possible without bias or partisanship, but never did I set aside my personal principles for what I believe to be fundamentally correct. On several occasions, I sought to persuade my fellow commissioners on matters of significance, such as the application of conflicts of interest, or my position, which is well known on population deviation. But on those occasions, I have been consistent in my position and my vote. Despite my failure to convince my fellow commissioners on various issues, I've accepted many of the decisions that have been made by this commission as a whole, even in those situations where I was the lone dissenting vote, of which there have been many, starting in December. As we commenced our line drawing for the congressional district lines, there have been many occasions in which I feel there were other configurations of multiple districts that were far more reflective of a consistent application of our constitutional priorities, but yet they were rejected by a majority of this commission, and other districts now stand in their place. I have confidence that each commissioner will vote in the manner in which he or she believes to be in the best interest of the state of California, and I will do so as well. But just as there is respected diversity on this commission, there should also be consistent respect should our votes be diverse. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner DeGiulio.
Okay, not quite as eloquent as Commissioner Filkins-Weber, but I wanted to just take a moment. When we had our discussion last week about the congressional districts, a member of the public had stated, it's not about the process, it's about the people. And I would argue that's actually very wrong. It's about both. And I want to make it clear that there was a lot of emotion last week as well, a good part of it coming from me. And so I think in addition to the intensity and the exhaustion that we probably all felt, my stance of being willing to vote no on a statewide map at the time, it was part of the reason the emotion came forth, because that was a very big thing to say. And I did not take anything like that lightly. But I want to make it very clear that the reason that I had taken that stance was because there was oh God, that's probably my phone ringing too. Hold on.
We can't hear it.
Okay,
continue.
You can't hear it. Probably left over from yesterday's tragedy. Anyway, but the reason that that had been so intense for me is because I personally did think that the process, that in that area, in an area in LA, we had not gone through the hard discussion that we had taken place in all other parts of the state. We had looked at options, all these things that were just so hard for us, crossing the Golden Gate Bridge, breaking county boundaries, linking coast and mountains, and this commission had taken a hard look at that. And I want the public to know that this commission did the same exact thing in this area. It took it upon itself, even though there wasn't a lot of time to do it, it took the time invested, whatever it took. We had an amazing mapper that built out an option, and that this commission, based on the constitutional criteria set forth in Proposition 11, looked at those districts, and the will of the commission was done after some very impassioned discussions, and that we have made a decision. And as a result of that, the process has worked, and that this commission gave equal opportunity for all districts within California. And as a result, the people were best served. So again, make no mistakes that this commission kept the integrity of the process as set forth in Proposition 11, and in doing so, best served the people of California. And California is a massive and complex state. And within that context, this commission did a tremendous job balancing the complexities of the process and the people. And that I believe, and that I can support.
Thank you. Commissioner Baraba.
So I'd like to reinforce that point about process, because I found it both personally and professionally interesting in the county of Santa Cruz and the Congressional District drawn there, is that I found myself not living too far away from splitting a city in which I was a neighbor to. And we really looked hard, and I found myself with some difficulty agreeing with that switch with my fellow commissioners. But it was the citizens of that community who said, you know, there's got to be a better way. And in doing so, they not only complained, but they found a solution that we had not thought of, and they submitted it, and our mapping crew took it because it wasn't quite meeting all the requirements, and then made it work. And I think that was a really good example of the process where, in essence, the citizens really, in a timely way, had a way of coming forward with an idea that we hadn't seen, and then we, as a commission, saw fit to accept it. And I think that was probably exemplary of what I think a lot of people had in mind.
Other commissioners who would like to weigh in on the congressional districts? Commissioner Yao.
When I took on this assignment as an appointed official to the Redistricting Commission, basically I assumed the task and the responsibility of representing all the people of California. I no longer consider myself as an individual. In fact, there's a requirement in part of our oath called a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest means conflict with your self-interest. And along the way, I learned that the conflict is not just on things that would benefit you, that are good for you, but the conflicts goes deeper into your personal feelings, how it impacts you negatively, because those are direct impact on an individual. So once I took me, the individual, out of the equation, then I can basically focus on the task at hand. The task before us is really voting for the best map possible, not only for the 37 million people in the state of California, but in the case of the congressional map, we're really speaking in a way for the entire 300 million people in the whole country. Prop 11 is not called the voters' first act by accident. This has implication of a process that can spread like wildfire to the rest of the country. So I'm very happy to be able to support this end product that we spent the last 8 months in producing. And a reporter called me very early this morning, and he asked me the question. He said, "Is the map fair?" I said, "Wow, this is the easiest question I have to answer in the last 8 months." My answer to him was absolutely. this is probably the fairest map that we as a team can put together. I as an individual can contribute to. So very happily, I'm going to support the congressional map that's before us.
Commissioner Blanco.
I agree with that, Commissioner Yao. I'm particularly proud of our congressional map, and I'll say why that is. I think this was the map where we were probably, in many ways that were subtle and sometimes not so subtle, subjected to a lot of pressure. Because, the stakes in a congressional map are very high. They're high in all of them, but this is when you get into congressional, you get into national issues. And so the stakes were high on the congressional maps. And when I compare as the old congressional map to this congressional map that we're voting on today, more so than in any of the state legislative maps, this is such a vast improvement in terms of getting rid of what led to Proposition 11 and 20. Well, this was Prop 20, which are gerrymandered districts. Over and over, we found ourselves in parts of the state where once we looked at populations and geography and communities of interest as we were mandated by the Constitution to do so, we saw that many people, we were stepping on a lot of toes. And the reason we was because we were following the law, and we were getting rid of gerrymanders. And they were fairly apparent when you look at the old maps. So I think that this is where the Commission really came through with shining colors, because we applied rigorously the criteria, and we were impartial. And for the citizens of California, we really improved their districts so that they accurately represent their communities of interest, and they get representation based on being with other communities that share characteristics, so that their representative will really listen to all their voices instead of districts that were imbalanced where some residents would go without a voice. So I am going to vote yes on this very enthusiastically.
Commissioner Forbes.
I'm very proud of these districts. The change in the status quo is hard because there's lots of vested interests who like it the way it was. But I think we've done a remarkable job, both in process and in public participation. We should not forget that well in excess of 20,000 Californians participated in this process. That doesn't count the applicants. They had a major direct effect on all the maps. And then you can find many instances where suggestions were made and we incorporated them. To me, this is the best in small d democracy that this state has seen in a long time. Truly, this process has shown that government can be by and for and of the people.
Commissioner Aguirre.
Yes, my experience with this commission really is about learning some lessons in perspective. You know, in the academic world, we talk of ourselves and where we live as a particular social location. In the real world, as it has been expressed by some of us and by the public, we look at our particular place as the center of the universe. And for myself, I often refer to where I live as our particular corner of the garden. So the redistricting process really has forced us as a commission to really step outside ourselves, step outside our perspective, step outside our particular center of the universe. And I think we've lived together for about 6 or 7 months, and during that time, I think we've come to a consensus on a particular view of what California represents. So this unity that I feel we have within the commission, this consensus that we have developed, then we're asking Californians to do exactly the same. The issues confronting the state are certainly daunting, and we will only be successful in dealing with those issues to the extent that we can step outside ourselves. We can only be successful in dealing with these issues to the extent that we can walk in each other's shoes. And these maps are the Commission's best effort at achieving this ideal throughout California.
Thank you. Commissioner Parvenu.
I just want to say that as we are all very much aware, this is truly a significant day in the history of this great state of California. I'm truly honored and proud to be a part of this civic process and to work with my fellow commissioners to endure this entire experience together. We've had some difficult decisions to make. We're here now, and I think we've come to some degree of consensus, although not everyone agrees with how this process evolved. We have certainly done the due diligence and examined these areas as careful as I think we possibly could have, and had to make some tough choices along the way. I'm also proud to work with, in addition to my fellow commissioners, with our wonderful staff who's worked long hours to bring us this far. Could not have gotten here without you, and of course, much can be said about Q2 and your diligence throughout this, and patience throughout this process. It's been truly an awesome experience. But the LA region in particular has its own unique set of circumstances and challenges and opportunities. That became very apparent last week with very lively and robust discussion about a particular region and the configurations of those districts. And it's particularly difficult in Los Angeles, the largest metropolitan area of this state with over 10 million people in that region, to make decisions adhering to the equal population requirement and knowing that street level analysis in detail is significant, because a line drawn on one street can make a significant impact on a number of communities in the city of LA and the county of LA. So I think to that extent we have given it some degree of detailed examination, but greater examination could have been done on that level with street level earlier. But we have a map that I think that we can live with. Also with the requirement of the Voting Rights Act, adhering to that to the extent possible in most cases, in those areas where we were required by law to have Section 5 in this state and potential Section 2 districts. I think we did a good job in examining that process and adhering to the law, federal and state law, to a great extent. Not in the totality, where we created every single potential district, but we created quite a few, and I think the public can live with that. I think we did with community of interest testimony, I think we weighed out to the extent that we possibly could, sometimes competing and opposite COI testimony. And we received it from all directions, from email, thousands of public comments by email, faxes, phone calls, public input hearings. We had to weigh out divergent, in some cases, testimony. And I think that we did a good job logically sorting this massive amount of information out to the extent possible. Not every voice not every single voice was heard. Maybe it was heard, but we had to make decisions to use our judgment to make the best decisions possible. And I think overall, after all is said and done and said, I think the Commission did a very good job in sorting out sometimes this opposing COI testimony and coming up with a map that I can feel good about and proud of, and honestly say that I will support this congressional map as it stands.
Thank you. I do have a handful of commissioners who have not spoken. Commissioner Raya, then Commissioner Ward.
There have been several moments sitting on this commission, listening to members of the public, some of them quite prominent, coming to speak with us for 1 or 2 minutes, when I have really felt quite in awe of the responsibility, not power, because that's not what we're about, but the responsibility that we've had to produce these maps that we hope will portend a brighter political future for California. I've learned a lot of terms in working on the commission, some of which have become almost our second language to us, about process and about transparency, and particularly about robust testimony and records. And I'm not one given to using jargon very much, so those terms have really come to have very significant meaning for me in the months that we've been on this road. I think what I look to now is looking at the future, excuse me, not only for the commissioners, and I really look at some of the younger members of the commission in particular, and I think, wow, the state just has a wonderful future looking at the prospect of some of you taking up significant leadership positions when your little tenure restraint is gone. You'll still be young enough. But I also look at the people who came to speak to us, citizens from everywhere. We all know we've learned so much about the state that I'll never go anywhere in California again without a mind full of a lot of details about the people there, the geography, the interests of the various communities that you pass through. But I was really struck by, we had people of all ages. We had people who brought their kids. We had people who brought students. And I just think, wow, what a wonderful sign for California's future that they were willing to engage these young people in a process that probably seemed completely out of, some mystery book. I don't know, just how do you even begin to talk about redistricting to anyone, let alone children? But we had some very articulate young people come and talk about their future in this state. So I think the opportunity, I'm sorry I'm so hoarse this morning, but the opportunity for citizens to see what it is like to have that access to a process, to be able to participate fully in helping to design these maps, I think just says so much for what we will be seeing in the next 10 or 20 years.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward.
After much deliberation and quite frankly, anguish, I'm sad to find myself compelled to vote no on the fruits of our very difficult labor. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve California, and I took this responsibility with the utmost of respect and care. When I voted for Propositions 11 and 20, I believe they afforded a historic opportunity to take politics and special interest out of determining the representational assignments of cities, counties, and neighborhoods. I do not believe the process this Commission chose to construct successfully accomplished that expectation in spirit of practice. In my opinion, the Commission failed to fulfill its mandate to strictly apply the constitutional criteria and consistently applied race and community of interest criteria and sought to diminish dissenting viewpoints. This first-time process has been challenging yet rewarding, and I commend the sacrifice in health, wealth, and family that every Commissioner and Commission staff member is freely given.
Thank you. Commissioner Dye.
Well, it's always a challenge to go toward the end. A lot has been said. I'm very, very proud of the maps that we've drawn. I think that this process has been extraordinarily transparent, and the Commission has worked extraordinarily hard to try to balance all of the testimony that we heard, often very complex, overlapping communities of interest. We've tried to truly balance the needs of all Californians as we drew these maps. And I think that, given the time that we had, that they're very much the best effort that was possible under those kind of time pressures. I'm also very proud of this commission. There are 14 of us who were chosen to be different. We were chosen for our diversity, and I think that we've really come together as a team. We've been able to share very different life experiences. We've had some extremely difficult conversations. We certainly did not always agree, and we were able to appreciate alternative viewpoints and somehow still come to agreement at the end of all of that. I'm extremely proud of the public. This is the first time the public has had a seat at the table in this very important process that happens every 10 years. And I personally found it incredibly inspiring. As much as we were sitting there for, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes in these public input hearings, many members of the public, some of them traveled up to 8 hours to drive to these hearings, all for their, 1 to 2 minute chance at the microphone. I found that incredibly inspiring. There were high school students who came and testified. We had a 96-year-old woman, I think, who came and testified. People from really all walks of life coming to tell us about their communities. And I think this kind of unprecedented collaboration, not only between the 14 of us who were picked to be a snapshot, to represent California, but California came out too and really engaged in this experiment in direct democracy. And together we have come up with these maps, and I think that is truly historic.
Thank you. Commissioner Ontai.
I agree totally with Commissioner Dai's comments, so I'm not going to repeat that, but I think what I have found throughout this journey is a deep and profound appreciation for the beautiful state we all live in. This is an enormously beautiful state, rich with resources and human talent. And I think what we've done here in the last 7 months, 8 months, is to put together a series of maps that I believe truly represents what will be 37 million people choosing and electing representatives that will protect our resources and the beauty of the state. And I think we have accomplished that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I just want to say also that I'm very proud of the citizens of San Diego. They have shown tremendous maturity.
Commissioner Anchetto.
Thank you. I'm looking at the screen in front of us, and I think that's just a work of art.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And largely because that's the state of California. And this has been an extraordinary process that we've gone through. It's an experiment in democracy. I think it's been a successful experiment. Are the lines ideal? Are they perfect? I don't think such a thing exists. I think, obviously, in looking at this set of maps as well as the other 3 maps, we have listened to the public, we've read the emails, the letters, we've gone to public hearings, listened carefully to that testimony. Very often that testimony has not always led to the same outcome simply because people disagree, and I think that's okay because that's a democracy. And within this commission, we have had disagreements as well. And I think that is part of being a democracy. And I think I'm very proud of the fact that we can disagree, and that even with that disagreement, we can still move forward with a product that all of us can be proud of. And I think certainly over the past several months, and I'm actually the newest commissioner, I've only been on the commission since February, but certainly in the months I've been with the commission, it's been an extraordinary experience working with all of you. It's not over, of course, but we'll continue to work with all of you, with the staff, our attorneys, our consultants, Q2, and of course working with the public and hearing their stories and traveling throughout the state and really getting to know California much better. Even though I've been a lifelong resident, there's so many parts of California that I really had no chance to experience prior to being on this commission, and I'm still awed by the fact that I know so little about the state in many ways too. So I think it's been a very enriching experience for me. I'm very proud of what we've done, and as we move forward, I'm very confident, and as you know, Commissioner Forbes and I have been delegated certain responsibilities. If litigation should arise, I am fully prepared to defend these maps in court. I think we've complied with the criteria. I think they're an excellent set of maps. We've exercised very sound judgment in all our decisions, and I'm eager to move forward.
Well, I guess the chair gets the last word. I would like to say a couple of things in regards to these maps and in regards to the process overall. A thank you is in order to my fellow commissioners and my colleagues who become my friends. I think this has been quite a journey together to witness how we have all taken to heart and really put our own personal and professional lives essentially on hold for many, many months in an effort to provide fair and effective political representation for the state's residents. I have always, even in those moments of disagreement, even on those late nights, I have been fully confident that we have all been operating in what we perceived as the best interests of the state of California, and that we took to heart our need to exercise our constitutional officer role in the way that best sat with our own consciences and our own life experiences and with the volumes of data that we had to work with. It certainly doesn't mean that we as individual commissioners or that individual districts are necessarily closing this process with everything that they had hoped for. Myself, with my home in the Bay Area, we had tremendous challenges as we, particularly at the Senate level and at the Congressional level, as we attempted to balance some of the geographic boundaries, some of the VRA Section 5 implications for that region. We, even to the 11th hour in Los Angeles, realized there were any number of refinements, particularly in such a complex and dense urban area, that had we had more time and resources, we would have continued to perfect time and time again. But what I do know is that as much as I am here as an Oakland resident, I am also here as an officer for the state of California. And so today, having the opportunity to zoom out and look at the entire state and remember our role to balance all the different needs, all the different voices, the ranked voter-approved criteria that we were given to follow in conducting this exercise, I do know that we followed those criteria and that we applied them in a fair and consistent manner and in a transparent manner where the public was the key partner every step of the way. So I will be voting for these congressional maps, and I thank you for all that you have done to get us to this fourth vote today. Ms. Sargis, could I have you call roll? Oh, public comment. Thank you. If we have additional members of the public who would like to comment, please come over and make your way to the mic.
Commissioners, I think these maps are a different kind of gerrymander than in 2001. Racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, ideological lines have been drawn here to replace the gerrymanders by Democrats and Republicans. The gold standard is 1991. When these maps are fully vetted, I think it's doubtful that this commission and its processes will spread across the country like wildfire. Independents, moderates, and conservatives will say, no way.
Thank you. Seeing no other members of the public, Ms. Sargis, could you please call roll?
Commissioner Aguirre.
Yes.
Commissioner Anchetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco.
Yes.
Commissioner Dye.
Yes.
Commissioner Raya.
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba.
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins-Weber.
No.
Commissioner Ontai.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
No.
Commissioner Yao.
Yes.
Commissioner DeGiulio.
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes.
Yes.
Commissioner Galambos-Malloy.
Yes.
Commissioner Parvenu.
Yes.
From the Democrats, we have 5 yeses and no nos. From the Republicans, 3 yeses, 2 nos. From the declined estates, 4 yeses. The requisite majority has been reached on this motion. The motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners. We have 4 draft final maps that we are advancing for our 14-day public noticing and comment period. We will be revisiting these maps when we come back to adopt them and move them forward for certification on August 15th. So we do have one item of unfinished business. As you know, yesterday during our business meeting, we had made some decisions regarding our communications director, Mr. Wilcox, and investing him with the authority to work in partnership with our outside litigation firms of Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher and Morrison Forrester to identify a media and communications protocol moving forward as we enter into any potential litigation phase. There were 2 parts to this. One was that Mr. Wilcox and our litigation team would identify a pool of ambassadors who will be the point people to represent the commission as we move forward for media and communications inquiries. And the second piece is that together they would work to propose a protocol for all of us to follow in order that we are best positioned to defend our maps in any potential litigation. So with that, I would like Mr. Wilcox to provide us an update moving forward what this new structure will look like.
All right, in working with legal counsel, we've come up with a protocol for now after today's news conference that all interview and speaking requests will be run through the communications director. Any requests received directly by commissioners will be immediately forwarded to the communications director. And the communications director will work with chief counsel and litigation counsel on speaking points when there are interviews and speaking engagements. And the communications director will work with designated commissioner ambassadors for interviews and speaking engagements in consultation with legal counsel. I will also call upon the commissioners for media interviews and other commissioners for media interviews and speaking engagements on an as-needed basis. We have 2 teams worked with legal counsel, and we have 2 teams to recommend, and I apologize that I haven't been able to speak to the commissioners that are going to be forwarded now on this. But we have a team of Commissioner Baraba, Blanco, and Galambos-Malloy, and commissioners, second team commissioners Filkins-Weber, Aguirre, and Forbes. And so I ask for your help in putting these teams together and working together in interviews and speaking engagements going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Wilcox, we will be receiving these instructions via email. There's a lot of excitement going on today, so I want to make sure we all have that information at hand.
And do we have to agree?
No, you don't.
I'm only teasing.
Oh.
It's the first occasion in which I had just been notified that I was on the team.
No, I apologize to everyone. This moved very quickly, but thank you very much. I
will
appreciate that.
gladly and proudly serve.
And just a reminder, the press conference is at the state capitol in room 1190, which is around the corner from the governor's office at 1 p.m.
Okay. What time would you like us there, Mr. Wilcox?
I think if you'll gather and walk over and be there, just a few minutes before, it would be great.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite public comment. Mr. Wright?
Good morning, Commissioners. Congratulations. Turn on. I know what the switch is. I'm technically complimented. Good morning, Commissioners. Congratulations. I view one thing relative to what's been going on here. Everybody's going to say this is a good map. These are better maps. These are best maps. The interesting thing is that those are not measures of quality. Those are opinion. And I'm sure in your votes today that you have presented your best opinion, that these are best collectively among you. Please stand tall, smile, present it to the state, go forth and slay that dragon. Thank you.
Chair, I would just like to comment that the voter from San Jose who has attended as many of these meetings as I know has certainly been one of the best participants in this process from a citizen's point of view that I can recall. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to give comment? Okay, well, I will say that, as always, it is an honor to serve as your chair, but it has been a particular honor to serve in this moment and to do so with Commissioner Baraba. I think, as everyone knows, we are essentially the bookends of the commission, and so to be at a moment where we are poised in between history and the future, it has been a pleasure. I'm happy to hand the proceedings over to Commissioner Baraba. I will be chairing the press conference that will take place later this afternoon. But one final note that I did want to make, it's clear that we will continue working together for some time in some capacity, but I did want to underscore and provide a special acknowledgement to our own CRC staff under the leadership of Mr. Claypool, that they have been small but mighty. They have worked the same level of overtime hours that we have and have been with us every step of the journey. So I really did not want to let this historic moment pass without acknowledging them and thanking them for their continued service on behalf of the state of California. With that, Commissioners, we are adjourned. We will see you over at the Capitol building. Please be there by 12:45.